Welcome to PyPod Chronicles, a series that brings our tech blog to life in a whole new way. Covering an array of topics surrounding Python and tech, from programming tips, best practices, and so much more. Let's get immersed in Python with the Nerd Nook on the go. If you've been keeping up with the blog, then you'll know me as Rusty Raccoon. But if you're new here, I'm Josh, your host. Here we are in episode 2. I'm giving this the title of Functions for Beginner, a Comprehensive Guide. I'm excited to have you all here. What are we going to be breaking down in this episode? Well, you guessed it, defining and creating functions in Python. Are you ready to code like a boss? Well, let's jump in. And let's check out these little blocks of code that we can use as our secret weapons in Python. Now, let's talk about creating functions. Creating functions is like building your own army of minions. A function is loyal, it follows orders, and they get the job done. To create a function, we need to use a Python keyword. This keyword is def, D-E-F, and what def translates to is define. After we use the keyword def, we want to follow it by the name we're going to give the function. Remember, your function name should be lowercase with no spacing. Give it a good name that refers to what the function does. After we name it, it's always followed by a set of parentheses. And if needed, you will put your parameters inside the parentheses. So hey, imagine, I create a function and I define it. It's called greet. I give one parameter name, so I'm going to give a name in the future to this function. This function inside is going to print hello name. Now I created that function, I gave it a parameter, which is like an imaginary variable that will be used in my function. When I want to use my function, I need to call it. So I'm going to use the name greet with a set of parentheses. Because I gave a parameter of name, I need to give an argument. So if I say Bob, it's going to call my function, and my function is going to print hello Bob. Pretty cool. But wait, there's more. A function is not just going to print out hello Bob. That's worthless. We don't want that. They can perform complex calculations, manipulate data, and even write their own programs. Well, not really, but they can do some pretty cool stuff. That's the beauty of functions in Python, is their reusability. With functions, you can write a block of code once and use it repeatedly throughout your entire program. And this is going to save you time and a lot of effort. And the best part of this is functions can be customized to perform different tasks depending on the specific needs of your program. These are essential in learning the fundamentals of programming. So don't skip over how functions work. Imagine you have a function and you want to calculate the area of a circle. You could use this function to calculate only the area of a circle, no matter how big or small. But what if you wanted to give the function the ability to also calculate the area of a cylinder? Right? A cylinder is like a 3D circle. Well, you could create another function, so you'd have two functions, a function for circle and cylinder. But we could just modify a single function to handle both circles and cylinders. What if we define a function and we could call this function calculate area? This function is going to take 3 parameters. Shape, which is going to be a string, so I'm going to type circle or cylinder. It's going to take a radius, and then it's going to take height. But initially, I'm going to set height to equal none, because a circle doesn't have a height. That's only going to apply if it's a cylinder. In my function, I'm going to create a condition, and I'm going to say if shape equals circle, do the algorithm to calculate the area of a circle. Also if elif, my shape is cylinder, I'm going to do the calculation for a cylinder. Else, I want to return none. Now when we call this function, I need to give it a shape and a radius. If it's a cylinder, I need to give that an integer, a height. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is all great, but how do I know when to use a function? Well, the answer to this question is actually much simpler than you may think. Whenever you need to do something more than once, functions can be great for encapsulating complex logic and making your code reusable. So if you find yourself writing the same code over and over again, it's probably time to turn that code into a function. What if you need to use a function from a different file? Well, if you've worked with Python libraries, you already know how to do so, right? So there's libraries out there like NumPy, Pandas, or maybe you aren't there yet and you're using basic Python libraries. That's fine, and that's where you should start. How about the random module from Python? If you've used that, then that's kind of the same thing of using a function from a different file. Imagine you have a file that you've named mathfunctions.py. And in this file, you have a single function called multiply numbers. All this function does is it takes x and y, and it's going to multiply x and y together. So you have a function, multiple numbers, in a different file. Now in your main file, you can import that, just like you import from other Python modules. And I could say from math functions import multiply numbers. Or what that translates to is from the math functions file, I want to import a function called multiply numbers. Now in my main file, I can use that function anywhere I want, as I would normally. This allows you to create cleaner, more organized code by using modules. Alright, let's wrap things up. So, functions are reusable pieces of code that can perform specific tasks. They can make your program more modular, organized, and efficient. They're versatile, reusable, and even nestable. That's right, they're nestable. What does nestable mean? Well, have you ever seen those little Russian dolls, those wooden dolls that we put inside each other? Well, it's like that, the little Russian dolls, but with code. However, creating functions is not enough. You also need to give them clear and concise instructions, or they might behave unpredictably, and we don't want that. Also, don't use too many functions in your code. Just like you wouldn't want to have too many chefs in the kitchen, you don't want to have too many functions. It's all about finding that right balance between readability and efficiency. Well, that's it for now. Thank you guys for tuning in for this episode of PyPod Chronicles, and be sure to check out the blog if you're looking for more. As always, the link is in the description. Until next time, I'll see you guys in the next episode.